welcome to our guests. There's a representative from the Downtown Association. Would that be who's that? Is that Nate? It's probably Nate. There's Nate. Hi, Nate.
Hey, Doug. A weird thing where I have to give public comment at City Council on the downtown high-rise thing, and it's definitely going to happen during this meeting. So if I have my video off, I just have to attend to this other thing real quick. I'm sorry. I really didn't want this to go this way.
Thank you for that heads up. So if you're not there, we'll just assume you are at City Council.
Yeah, I'm double screening, so it'll be brief, but I'm going to have to disappear for a minute. My bad.
Sounds good. Well, welcome, Medina. And David, hello. David and David. Chris, hi. David.
Hi.
Those are some nice new letters at the end of your last name. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hi, Chris. Just saying hi back.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I like your look today. You look, I don't know, very, what is the look? English? Is that English?
More Irish.
More Irish?
Yeah.
Okay, Great Britain-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, British Isles. Yes.
Sounds good. Hi, Eric. Nice to see you.
Hey, Doug.
Hi. Give it a couple more minutes for folks to join and connect. Welcome, David. Ron, I think you might be saying something. If you are, you're on mute.
Hi, Doug. I was just going to say, I was just looking at somebody who was trying to join the Teams meeting because there's a Teams invite on the calendar item. So I'm letting them know to join the Zoom.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. Elizabeth, are you connected? If so, welcome.
I am. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if I saw the connection dots or not still, but thank you for being here. Nice to see you again. There's Susan. Hello, Susan. And we're a few minutes in. Don't see folks in the waiting room. And it looks like everyone that I see in the room's audio is connected. So in the interest of time, let's go ahead and get started. And a quick reminder that we are recording today's meeting. So hey, everybody, thanks for joining us again today to talk about VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project. I'm Doug Moody. Once again, I'm standing in as facilitator while we continue to work to identify the right long-term facilitator for the CWGs. And Bernice is going to have some more to share about the ongoing work to bring on the next long-term facilitator during her presentation. Today, after we get through this welcome and introduction part of the meeting, Erica is going to have some information to share with you about the role of the BSV External Affairs team. Then Bernice will provide an update of the overall VTA BSV Phase 2 project. And following Bernice, we have Ron Golem, VTA's Director of Real Estate, who's here to provide an update of VTA's current real estate and acquisition efforts. Following Ron, Adriana will give you an update regarding the station refinement efforts for the downtown and Diridon BART stations. Then after Adriano, Eric will be back up with Kristen, providing an update on the BSV outreach and engagement efforts. And then following that, we'll have some space for CWG member report outs. And just a reminder that the CWG member report out part of the meeting is your opportunity to share with the group how you've been sharing information updates about the BSV Phase 2 project with your communities and share what you've heard, what you shared with them, and then what you've heard from them. And then to close out the meeting, we'll have some info about the next round of CWGs coming up in February. Next slide, please. So before we get into the presentation part of the meeting, we'd like the CWG members that are here today to introduce themselves to the group, just stating your name and organization. I would start with Fred. Fred let us know he's not going to be able to make it today, as he's your chair, so we'll start with him. But otherwise, let's just jump on down the list. And let me broaden my window so I can see all the names, and hopefully I don't miss someone when reading down the list, which I'm guilty of doing. So if I happen to skip you, please don't let me chime in. Adina, I see that you're here. Would you like to say hi? I think you're, there you are.
Sorry.
Adina, I think you're having some audio issues. We can come back to you when you reconnect. Alan, is Alan on the line? I don't see Alan. Bert, is Bert here today? I don't see Bert or Carol. Chris, I know you're here. Chris, would you like to say hi to the group?
Chris Morrissey with the San Jose Arena Authority.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Chris. Adina, I see you're back. Glad you got your connection issue.
Hi, yes.
Fist.
Sorry, I unintentionally put myself into driving mode. I don't know how, but anyway, hello. Adina 11, Friends of House.
Thank you very much, Adina. I don't see Dana. Derek, I don't see Derek either, or Edgar. Elizabeth, I know you're here. Elizabeth, you want to say hi?
Yes, hi, everyone. Elizabeth Chinhell, representing the San Jose Downtown Residents Association.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Fred's not going to be able to make it today. Oh, and Alan let us know he's going to be 30 minutes late, by the way. I don't see Jeff. Jim, I saw you join. Jim, you want to say hi to the group?
Jim Goddard, Sharks Sports and Entertainment.
Thank you very much. And I don't see Larry, and I know Nate is here if he's able to say hi. Nate, you want to say hi? He also let us know he's going to need to comment during a item that's at the San Jose City Council. So if Nate's not able to chime in, that's likely where he is. So thanks everybody. Welcome to our CWG members and all of other guests. Thanks for coming today. Next slide, please. And before I pass it over to Erica to talk about the role of the BSV External Affairs team, just a quick reminder of some upcoming meetings. We have this CWG meeting for the downtown Diridon CWG today. We'll have our next meeting in February, and also the reminder about some upcoming VTA Board of Directors meetings in December, January, and February. And Kristen will also email out to the CWG members alerts, the email list for the CWG's alerts for other meetings. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Erica to talk about the role of the BSV External Affairs team. Erica, over to you.
Great, thank you, Doug. So today I just wanted to take a moment to talk through what our team, who you all regularly engage with, what our role is on the project, just to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding. So our group falls into kind of two major categories: community outreach and stakeholder coordination. And our team is made up of transit planning and engineering professionals. On the community outreach side, our activities are driven by the construction outreach management program that VTA has developed and is implementing as part of our environmental mitigation, which includes the construction education and outreach plan, the construction transportation management plan, and the emergency services coordination plan that you all have heard us talk about over the last several years. As part of the program, we're managing managing public communications related to construction, supporting specific program efforts such as the Historic Building Investigation and Monitoring Program, and we lead coordination and facilitation of VTA hosted community meetings and outreach activities, how attend tabling events and such. And then on the stakeholder side, a major part of our stakeholder coordination is integrating with the design team to incorporate the feedback from you all, the stakeholders and the community, into the project design. In addition, stakeholder coordination includes city and agency coordination, coordination with adjacent developers to the project, and managing the development of the contract-specific construction transportation management plans, working with the contractors, the cities, the stakeholders in the community as part of our environmental commitments. Next slide. I've been working on this project in this role for the past 11 years, and I have my professional engineer's license, and our main focus is kind of integrating with the design team and the engineering team to incorporate feedback. As I mentioned, we engage with the general public and targeted stakeholders such as yourselves to share project information and collect your feedback and relay it back as we're integrated with the rest of the team to incorporate your feedback into the project design. So just wanted to share and make sure that you all understood what our role is, and happy to answer any questions before Bernice dives into the phase 2 update. All right, thank you.
Bernice, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. We can go to the next slide, I guess. So wanted to give you all an update on our CWG facilitator progress. We've been coordinating with potential CWG facilitators over the past few months. We met with the CW chairs to discuss some of our thoughts and potential CWG facilitators. We are currently coordinating on the contract scope and fee with a potential CW facilitator, and working through the fine details, and anticipate bringing them on for our series of meetings next year. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that. And we are lucky to have Doug, who continues to serve that role right now, but we'll be passing that baton once we get a contract in place. So thank you for everybody who's weighed in on that so far. And we look forward to engaging them next year for the series. Next slide, please. So wanted to give some general updates on the program for the project. We have a combination of VTA BART program management team, which consists of HNTB and WSP, and a general engineering consultant, which is Mott McDonald PH Wong. We all work collaboratively together as one team, but we each have these individual roles. We are continuing to advance design and keep pace with the BART Silicon Valley program, especially interfacing with the tunnel and track work contractor right now. The tunnel and track work contractor is driving the BART Silicon Valley program. As you know, we awarded them the first phase of the tunnel and track work, which is advancing the design. The latter phase, which they'll be doing pricing very soon, is on the actual construction of the tunnel and track work. And we're gearing up to be ordering the tunnel boring machine soon. We're reviewing contract packaging and delivering methods for the other contracts. As you know, we previously had 3 other contracts. We're looking at that strategy and how we're going to deliver those other contracts. And we are preparing the RFP for the construction management services. And what they'll do is they'll oversee all the construction contracts that are out there. Next slide, please. This is our program delivery organization. As Erica had mentioned, we've got our stakeholders, of which you are a critical element for our stakeholders. We've got VTA and BART, and those are the 3 basic drivers of this program. Then we have the program management team that supports to VTA, and they are in charge of the project engineering and contract management. They do all the project controls like cost, budget, reporting, and then they put together the contract packages. Then underneath is the general engineering consultant. They do the design services, design support during construction, and the plans and specifications. And then you have the construction management team, and they'll do the inspection testing, progress and measurement, and the pre-turnover and acceptance before we hand everything over to BART. Next slide, please. So as we had, I believe, shared in our last meeting, throughout the summer, the Kiewit Shade Trailer Joint Venture, the contractor for the tunnel and track work contract, they have been working on proposed innovations. Those are things that will augment the project, maybe enhance cost effectiveness. There are, I think on one of the next slides, we'll show you all the things that we're reviewing those for. Included those innovations are an alternative ventilation configuration. I'll show you a diagram of the side-by-side center platform configuration. Tunnel boring at 28th Street, Little Portugal, how we do that station box. The station layout, including the access and how you get in and out of the station, and some other innovations as well. Next slide, please. So the innovation goals and criteria, we looked at these innovations related to operations and maintenance and safety, how it impacted the passenger experience. Constructability, is it feasible? Is it cost effective to construct? And then overall, does it improve the cost and schedule? And those are the criteria looking at and the goals for how we evaluated these innovations. Next slide, please. So this is the previous single bore stacked configuration. As you can see, at the downtown station, the Diridon station, the tracks are going to be in a stacked configuration. With the proposed innovation, the tracks would be side by side throughout the entire 5-mile tunnel with a center platform. Previously, in the currently scoped project, the configuration starts out as side by side and then converges into a stack configuration. So at the downtown and Diridon station, that's what it is. And then it goes back when it comes to grade to be side by side again. So this provides consistency in the track configuration throughout the tunnel and provides some opportunities on the approach to each of the stations. Next slide, please.
Bernice,
Yes.
can I ask a question on this slide? After you've
Sure.
explained it, yeah, I'm interested in a description or at least examples of the next one about the early work packages enabling works that would be in the summer of 2023.
So the early work packages, we're actually going to be starting some of those things in like the spring, summer timeframe. That's doing site preparation work, some of the utility relocations. It's what we're working on for our construction transportation management plan. So those are the works that start prior to the actual digging of the tunnel. And Erica, you might have something to add on this that I'm not thinking of right now, which is maybe included in enabling works and early work packages.
I think you pretty well covered the
Okay.
main.
I just didn't know if I
Sure.
was, it's like site preparation, just preparing actually the yard in Santa Clara to facilitate the tunnel liner manufacturing, to prepare the actual porter for the tunnel. So it's really getting ready to start the tunneling activities and such, and prepare the site for that. Getting ready to bring materials in and prepare the yard and layout. So a lot of that initial activity will be sort of in that area of the West Portal, so the border of Santa Clara and San Jose. So as I mentioned before, since last May when we awarded the tunnel and track work contract, we've been working on the programming services and those innovations. At this December board meeting, I believe the board's going to be asked to approve some additional funds, an amendment to the current contract for advancing design and procurement of the tunnel boring machine. That is planned for the December 1st meeting. Then beginning like in the late spring timeframe, as we just discussed, the early work packages. And then sometimes in approximately a little over a year, the heavy construction will begin when that tunnel boring machine is secured and we begin actually starting the tunnel boring and the major construction works. So about 18 months from now for that. Next slide, please. So ongoing efforts, we have been working with some of the key stakeholders on looking at ways. Some of the innovations, as I mentioned, could facilitate some different approaches at the stations. So we're looking at some station refinement options, the way that people access the station, the way that they move through the station, the use of escalators, elevators, we call that vertical circulation. So we've been looking at that possibility of maybe reducing how many times you have to go back and forth on the escalators, the shaft for the tunnel, and just different ways to affect the passenger experience to and within the station. We've been also looking at some options in Santa Clara with that west side underground concourse to facilitate some additional access coming from the west side of the Santa Clara station. Next slide, please. We had some meetings and we had a site visit by the Federal Transit Administration, representatives from FTA headquarters in Washington and Region 9, which is the area that serves us, and what is our program management oversight consultant. Every project going through the federal funding process has a program management oversight consultant. They're sort of like, I guess I'd compare them to sort of an ongoing auditor who we report out monthly on all the project activities and our progress, our agreements. We all report on each of our individual areas, our outreach, our communications, every aspect of the project. They got a project status, including cost, schedule, and risk, and a roadmap to our full funding grant agreement. As you know, I'll discuss in, I think, 2 slides from now, what our current funding strategy is. And we also did a tour of the project alignment. Next slide, please. On October 5th, some California infrastructure advisors toured the Diridon station, and it included the BART Phase 2 project updates and improvements to the Diridon station. Those are some of the innovations that we're looking at as part of the station refinement effort. The former LA mayor, who was appointed by the Governor Newsom to work with local, state, and federal leaders to maximize access to federal funding, participated in this tour. And BART Silicon Valley, the Phase 2 project, is been identified as one of the priority projects in the region. So that is a very good designation for us. Next slide, please. As you may recall, back in 2021, the FTA conducted a risk assessment. And what that is they look at the project and they take our cost and schedule projections, and then they kind of do like a what if scenario, and they apply additional risk and contingencies. And the result of that risk assessment was a $9.1 billion cost estimate. That is a cost estimate. They don't do a cost calculation. And then a 2034 revenue service date. We are now utilizing those to do our funding plan. The program team, I believe in February, will be doing an independent cost estimate. We're bringing on a consultant. And we'll be reestablishing and baselining our cost and schedule. We'll utilize the estimates from January 2021, but updating them with all the information we've got from the current CP2 tunnel and track work contractor, so that we have a more definitive idea of what that major contract will cost. It's about 65% of the overall project cost. Per contract, KST is preparing their own open book cost estimate. That's part of the phasing I had mentioned, the 2 phases that they're delivering, the design and engineering versus the construction. So for them to get into Phase 2, they present an open book cost estimate, and then we look at that, and we either accept that, or there is an offshoot option if we decide to pursue a different method for delivering the project, different contracting mechanism for that. So that is where we are right now on cost, schedule, and risk. Next slide, please.
Bernice, I had a quick question.
Sure.
It's Chris Morrissey. It's about the revenue service date in 2034. Is that another way of saying 2034 service begins?
So that is the service date, where that was the service date and the cost from the FTA risk assessment. We are using that right now for our funding plan. And as I said, in February, we are going to do a project cost and schedule estimate. Right now,
Okay.
We're sort of adopting those, I would say, and then we will produce our own, like from baseline, Like I said, they added like anticipated time for the rate of the tunnel boring machine and things like that. So we will come out with our project cost and schedule estimate in about, I guess, 4 months.
Okay, thank you.
Is Aaron here, or am I going to go through the slide? Aaron, are you here to go through government affairs? Okay, I will go through the government affairs. So an update on our funding situation. The state has 1.5 billion allocated to projects outside of Southern California. VTA is actually going to apply for some additional funds through the state TCRP program. We've been awarded or allocated 750 million to date. We are actually going to be making a request. We're putting in an application for an additional 750 million. As you know, we have also transitioned from the expedited project delivery pilot program into, we've requested to go into the capital investment grant program that the new starts, which we utilize for phase 1, so that we can also double our federal investment. So we'll keep you posted. You'll be hopefully hearing a lot about our state request, and I appreciate those of you who helped us or are writing support letters. The state funding is absolutely critical to filling in the funding plan and getting the federal allocation that we're asking for through the New Starts program. Next slide, please. As you know, we were directed back in May to look at comparing lots of assertions and inquiries about our delivery strategy, single bore versus twin bore. At the board meeting last month, we had the APTA peer review committee present their findings on comparing both environmentally analyzed twin bore and single bore projects. They looked at some of the innovations and the currently scoped single bore project, and basically gave us the nod to continue with our single bore project. At this point, with all things being nearly equal and the single bore having some definitive benefits related to reducing some risks, reducing above ground impacts, the single bore is what we're continuing to pursue. And any change to a different tunneling methodology going back to twin bore would really have significant delays and cost increases to the project. So just wanted to give you an overall update. I believe all the information, if you want to see the presentation, and I think we may have sent you the links to those, is posted online. But we are continuing in the direction we've been going. It was an affirmation that we're going in the right direction and is the best approach, especially related to cost and schedule at this point. And I think, oh, I've got one more. I pretty much already said the funding. We requested the FTA to transition to New Starts. That allows us to basically double the federal investment. The EPD contribution would be limited at 25% going into the federal New Starts. We're looking to double that investment from 2.3 up to about 4.6. We've requested a letter of no prejudice. What that does is if we make this shift from EPD to New Starts, we had a letter of intent previously through EPD. If we get into the new program, we need the LONP, letter of no prejudice, to continue advancing all of those activities and to procure the long lead tunnel boring machine and do other the pre-construction, early construction activities I mentioned. We are in discussions with the FTA to develop the roadmap to getting that full funding grant agreement, which is pretty close to the same schedule we were on before, looking for that in a little over a year from now. And I believe that's my last slide, and I think I'm handing it over to Ron now. So Ron.
That is the last slide. Great job getting through that meaty content, Bernice. And I think we do have to pause. You got some questions during your presentation.
Oh,
But,
okay.
but we also have a little bit of pause, which we normally wait for people to save their questions and comments to the end unless they're clarifying questions. So Jim, Chris, thank you for being appropriate with your questions and comments. And are there any other questions or comments for Bernice on the content she just presented? Okay, hearing none. I just interrupted the flow.
No, that's okay. I'm signing off.
Ron,
Just
over to
visual.
you.
I'm going to be listening.
Great. Thanks, Doug. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you an update on both the property acquisitions, and at the end, I'll also give you an update on our trans-oriented development activities. So the first thing to understand, and this goes all the way back to the draft supplemental environmental impact statement and supplemental environment report in the public comment period that led to the June action in 2018, where both the VTA board cleared those documents and then VTA awarded the record of decision. All that work in 2018 identified the properties that we required for acquisition for the project, evaluated the alternatives, and provided the legal basis for acquiring the properties. We also, following that, and this was completed by the end of 2018, also studied and identified all of the occupants, both residential and commercial, we could identify in those properties to both notify them about the project and the rights to which they're involved, and actually adopt a relocation plan that identifies the benefits to which they're entitled, how we'll work with them, and so on. And it's just the nature of any transportation project that there ends up being situations where you have to acquire properties and you do have to relocate occupants so the project can proceed. But one of our goals, both when we do the environmental document, is to minimize the extent to which that happens. And as we've gone on with design, we've sought to further minimize that to the extent we can. Next slide. So there's a lot of text here, and I won't cover everything in here, but I will say that some of this I mentioned about relocation. ARWS is our contractor who provides relocation assistance services. And so the general information notice is what we sent to them. The relocation plan was adopted, and we actually have a page, the link is at the bottom, for BART Phase 2 real estate acquisition. And on that page at the bottom, you'll find two documents. One is the final relocation plan, so you can see how the relocation assistance works, what is provided, and how we go about working with folks. And the other is really for property owners, but we thought it'd be helpful to share with everyone, which is it's a handbook that explains to property owners the eminent domain process, the steps in the process, how we work with people, and the different steps that can be involved in that. So both those documents are on that page. Next slide, please. Oh, so let me just kind of give you a quick overview. So I think where we are right now is that in total, we have about 85 properties where we need various types of interest. On most of those properties, or some of those properties, we need more than one type of interest. So we might need a couple different types of easements, for example. Just to give you a quick breakdown of those 85 properties, 9 of them we need to buy the properties outright. There's about 30 properties where we need some combination of either temporary easement that's more construction related or a permanent easement for the project. And the majority of properties, 46, is where we need a tunnel easement because the tunnel is going to private property. In downtown in Diridon, the BART tunnel will be under Santa Clara Street. And so we basically have statutory authority to build in public right of way. But down by 25th Street, and once we get to the Alameda, the tunnel takes a curve if you're familiar with the alignment, and so that's where we're going to private property. You need to buy easements. We now have offers outstanding or negotiating with more than half of the properties. And if you look at kind of what's coming, we basically started appraisals and are going with about 3/4 of the property. And I will say that our experience so far kind of tracks with BART Phase 1, and that is that generally, and this is one of the challenges, is that most folks had other ideas and other plans. And so when we have a project and we say, gee, this project needs to occur, and we've kind of gone through the process to demonstrate the public benefits and why we can proceed with eminent domain, no one is sitting around waiting for us to do this or looking forward to it. And so we get a lot of resistance. We got a lot of folks kind of ignoring us, and it ends up being the case. And this happened in the Phase 1 extension, that about half the time we have to go to a resolution of necessity hearing, which is when the VTA board does a public hearing and adopts a resolution that then allows us to begin the actual formal process. And a lot of times that's when we actually start getting kind of serious response and engagement with the owners. At the end of the day, we end up only having a handful of actual trials that we go all the way through, and we're always trying to negotiate this and reach agreement. And one of the things I'll share is that we're very focused on getting possession of properties, because that's what helps us maintain the project schedule. When projects get delayed, the costs start going up very dramatically. So one of the things we offer to owners is that, if they really don't agree with us on price, what we can do is enter into what we call a possession and use agreement. And that gives us possession of the property for the project, but it gives us a lot more time to continue negotiating compensation. And it doesn't foreclose the owner's rights to ultimately a jury trial on compensation if they don't agree with us, but it's a way of kind of balancing our needs while allowing more time for negotiation if they so desire. So I think to sum up, I'll say that we're on schedule for possession of properties for the early works activities that Bernice was describing earlier, as well as the start of the heavy construction in 2024. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop, and then I'll shift and just talk about TOD for a minute. We can skip this graphic, Kristen. So I was going to say that, as you all know, VTA owns nearly 3/4 of the downtown block where the downtown BART station will be located. And previously, our board had accepted a design development framework that was really VTA's vision for, if we combine our interest and the other owners in the block, what is the potential for that development? In fact, the background on my screen is a rendering for what the view would be from the BART station into the interior of that development. We had been holding off on going further with the selection of a master developer, just waiting for the station design process to kind of go through to see if there's any changes that came from that. We're basically hoping that by early next year, and I think this will be in advance of the next CWG meeting, that we will go ahead and release a request for qualifications for master developers to work with VTA and its properties for the block. And so that would be a two-step process. One is to identify, the developers that can work on a scale of what's potential for the downtown block, which in our prior planning, we thought that it was about 1.8 million square feet of mixed-use development. The qualifications round would basically see who's interested. It would then go to the VTA board to do a short list, and then issue a request for proposals. And the goal would be to select VTA's master developer by the end of the year, next year. And the whole approach here is that the design development framework articulates kind of a vision that we think is shared and what the opportunity is. But really, once we select a master developer, and this would be after the end of next year, the first task is to really have that developer engage with the other property owners and really put together a more detailed master plan for how the development can work. Because if you're going to have successful kind of high density mixed use development, there are a tremendous number of coordination issues between the owners, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. And so that's really the process we'll be going through next year. Again, hopefully we'll have that RFQ issued before the next CWG meeting so that we can select that master developer and then beginning working with the other owners on how this will all come together. And that's my update, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Other questions or comments for Ron? I don't see anything in chat. Don't see any hands up. Not hearing anyone. So we're going to jump over to Adriano with an update on the station refinements effort for the downtown and Diridon stations. Thank you, Ron, and Adriano, over to you. Adriano, before you go, yeah, Adriano, we have one question for Ron in the chat that I think we should do that before we move on to your section. And Ron, the question is from Kenneth, will any acquisitions include residential properties?
Yes, I think we have one property acquisition that will include residential properties. And, just to explain how this works is that when we have that, we of course send a notice out to the residents. There's several things that happen. One is we have a legal obligation, and this is what ARWS does, is to help people find a new location to move to. And I'll talk about this in the context of residential, but it's true of commercial. So we help them find a new place. If there's a rent differential between the new place and the old place, then we have an obligation to help them with that rent difference. We also are obligated to help them with moving costs and other costs that may arise out of this. And there's very specific requirements both in federal law and in California law about how this is done. And so we make sure with the agents that we give everyone all the compensation to which they're entitled. And the one final thought I'll add, because this is an example of a difference between federal law and California law, is that to the extent that there are any residents who are undocumented, federal law does not allow us to provide assistance to them. However, California law requires us to do that. And so in the case of any undocumented individuals, we would be working with them and providing the relocation assistance. The complication is that we cannot get any reimbursement from the federal government for that money, but VTA picks up that piece of the cost in order to ensure that we address their needs.
Thank you, Ron. Kenneth, I think that answers your question. If it didn't, or if you have follow-on, please ask that now. I'm looking for things in the chat, hands up, or hearing from folks. Not hearing anything or seeing anything. So Adriano, you are up again. And Kenneth says thank you, Ron. So thank you for that response.
All right. Hi, everyone. Here today to provide a brief update on the station design refinement effort. Just as a reminder, this is an effort that kicked off in early summer of this year at the direction of VTA board, and that was to look at opportunities to refine the current station designs for the downtown and the Diridon stations to improve connectivity and access, passenger experience and circulation, and optimize TOD integration. Additionally, at the Diridon station specifically, part of the directive was to look for opportunities to better integrate the station with the future DISC concourse. And all of this is being done under the guidelines of wanting to find opportunities that can be pursued that would not push back or adversely impact the project's ability to obtain a full funding grant agreement in its current schedule. So next slide, please. So as we presented back in September, we had just completed the station design refinement workshop effort that included 7 workshops and several additional meetings beyond those with the City of San Jose, BART, and key stakeholders. And through that effort, we identified potential refinements to the downtown and Diridon primary station entrances, as well as secondary station entrances. And we selected those options we identified options that were preferred through initial evaluation, and that kicked off the implementation review. So that's what I'll be providing a brief update on today. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, the effort that we've followed is engaging stakeholders and the public to identify what are the key elements that are most important to the community and future users. Then we work closely with the city and BART to identify these station refinements and evaluate them from a passenger experience and an urban design standpoint. And then the preferred concepts from that phase were advanced to a level where we could then conduct some technical feasibility analysis. So the designs were advanced enough so that we could develop some order of magnitude cost estimates and be able to better understand what the construction schedule environmental implications of those concepts are. And our intent is to provide an update to the VTA board at the December 1st board meeting. So just as a review of what we have looked at the this is an image of the current design of the station, the downtown primary station entrance, and the focus for this station entrance was to reduce the number of escalator switchbacks. That was really the primary goal, and then additionally explore opportunities to maximize on-site high density TOD and accommodate some ground floor commercial as well. Next slide, please. So one of our biggest, the refinements that we've done at that we've identified at the downtown station are to reorient the stairways, escalators to a north-south orientation, and that allows for a single switchback to be used, so that the left image shows the existing path of travel that a passenger might take to access the platforms, and the right image shows how the refined concept would operate. I should note that the station refinement effort was being conducted in parallel to the tunnel innovation effort, and so here you see the stations show the stacked tunnel configuration. The benefits of these refinements would certainly be maximized by a single level platform, so side by side with a center platform. Next slide, please. We're still looking at two potential concepts that are being evaluated, and really the difference between those two is the provision of a potential free passageway that would connect Santa Clara Street to the Paseo to the north. And these concepts are being costed out right now. For the downtown secondary entrance, we heard that there's a desire for a station entrance south of Santa Clara Street and to the east. So we identified three potential opportunities to provide us an additional entrance. We've continued to talk with FTA and the city about the feasibility and implications of implementing these. In general, all three of these would still require the secondary head house located between First and Second to be provided. So they would be in addition to that secondary head house. At Diridon Station, this is a conceptual rendering of the current design. The Diridon Station has a larger circular shaft that really allows for improved circulation over the downtown. So here there's a single switchback to get to the upper level platform. And again, with the proposed tunnel innovations, that could be the path that really all users would take, so that we would eliminate the need for that lower level. The focus at the downtown or at the Diridon Station was to maximize TOD opportunity, and then look for opportunities to improve connectivity to the future DISC concourse. So the conversations we've identified we've looked at rectangular shaft excavation in the hopes that we can better accommodate TOD on the site. So this image on the right shows the VTA owned block, which is located between Santa Clara and Post Street, with Montgomery to the east and Cahill to the west. So one of our concepts maintains the east-west orientation of the stairs, escalators, and fare gates, while we have another concept that rotates that to a north-south. And again, the focus of these is to see how we can improve TOD and what opportunities for ground floor TOD and ground floor retail there may be along Montgomery Street as well. We also have identified that there could be the potential for a secondary station entrance to the west of the Caltrain tracks. And so that's what is shown here. We've looked at the White Street emergency egress and ventilation facility shown in the yellow within the blue circle there. And so have been coordinating with agency partners, High Speed Rail, Caltrain, the city, and the DISC partnership to kind of vet the feasibility of a more complete station entrance at this location. So next step, as I mentioned earlier, we've been advancing the concepts and are really just finishing up the implementation assessment right now. We believe have costs coming in as we speak and are in the process of QCing those and making sure that we all really understand the costs that are being given to us by the CP2 contractor. Over the coming weeks, we'll be sharing the summary of this implementation assessment with the city and other stakeholders, and we'll be presenting on Thursday 3 weeks from now, Thursday, December 1st, we'll be presenting to the VTA Board of Directors with a recommendation for which concepts should move forward. That's all I have. I know it was a very quick update. As I mentioned, we're kind of all the pieces are coming together as we speak. So if you'd like to learn more, we encourage you to tune in to the December 1st board meeting.
And thanks for keeping it short to keep us some time for these other topics as well, Adriano. But also, if there's questions or comments for Adriano, the floor is open for those now. And then drop them in the chat, raise your hand, or type up and ask. Hearing and seeing no questions or comments. Thank you, Adriano. We'll move over to the outreach and engagement update with Erica and Kristen. Erica and Kristen, over to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to find my mute button there. As I mentioned earlier, VTA has developed and will implement the Construction Outreach Management Program to meet our environmental commitments. The purpose of the COMP, the COMP, is to minimize and reduce construction-related impacts to the extent feasible on the community and to inform the public and other stakeholders of the construction schedule and associated activities. The COMP includes the three plans you see here that we've been talking about for the last several years here at the CWG. Next slide. Just a reminder of the purpose of the CTMP is to minimize and reduce to the extent possible construction-related transportation impacts to all modes during construction. The plan will identify construction details which will create disruptions based on selected means and methods, and will identify how and when to communicate the disruptions to affected stakeholders in the community, working together with the construction education and outreach plan. We'll also establish a basis for developing the traffic control plans as they're needed. The CTMP is not being created to impede construction. It will not impede construction to eliminate travel and access disruptions or eliminate all construction-related impacts from the project. Next slide. A reminder that we developed the draft CTMP, which I've talked through with you over the last couple of years, which is the overarching guidance and included in the contract packages. So as we not to dictate the contractor's means and methods. So contract-specific CTMPs will be developed by each contract package as the contractors come on board. As we've mentioned here, QHA Trailer, KST, the contractor for the CP2 contract package to the Tunnel and Track Work contract, is on board. We are kicking off the development of the first CP2 specific CTMP. So I wanted to walk through here what the development of the CP2 CTMP's engagement process is, which I believe I presented on the last couple times, but wanted to remind everybody and have a little bit of new information. Additional information. So there'll be regular coordination meetings between the contractor, VTA, and the city. We had our kickoff meetings just this week with the cities. In addition, there'll be regular coordination with adjacent businesses and institutions throughout the development to provide input. And we will also host a public meeting or multiple meetings depending on the extent of what work areas are covered in the CTMP by geographic area to give the community an opportunity to provide input on the draft document. Next slide. So the first CP2 specific CTMP will be for the early works at the West Portal, denoted as number 1 on the graphic. So as Bernice mentioned earlier, this work will begin in the spring sometime, and so we'll keep you updated and posted. All of this work will happen within VTA's property at the Newhall Yard. QHA Trailer, the contractor, is planning for a second early works CTMP to cover the remaining project areas. And I'll be back to report more information next year on what that entails and more on details on that process. In addition, there will be additional CTMPs for major construction, and the extent of them will be determined as the project further advances. So more just kind of an update that we're kicking off the process here. The first one is for early works at the West Portal only, and we'll continue to provide you updates as we have more information. Happy to take any questions on that before I pass it over to Kristen.
I had a quick question and a general comment. Is this being such a critical point of the project, and knowing that as we get closer to the project, that the details will come in clearer focus, would it make sense as we move forward through the meetings and we get closer to construction, that this becomes the first item of discussion in the meeting, to kind of spend more time, because this will be the most critical point of the discussion when we start getting to the construction. Just a suggestion about knowing that we're heading towards this point, and it may be a time for us to spend a lot more time diving into some of the elements of this construction. So just thought I'd add that point.
Yeah, that makes sense. That this will definitely be one of the main areas where we have more information in the coming months, for sure. Thank you for that feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question, if I may.
Yep.
Relating to my prior question, I guess, time frame for this number 1 versus number 2. I'm kind of clear on number 1 when number 1 starts. I'm not as clear on when number 2 might start.
Yeah, so the estimate and the details on number 2 are still kind of being worked out, but the estimate right now is that work would begin in summer of 23. So we're just kicking off the first one that will where work will begin in spring of 23. So we'll be overlapping working on 1 while we're starting number 2 as well. I just don't have the details on number 2 or the schedule yet. But as we get more information, we'll be sure to share with you on the timing, and then we'll have more details of what the scope of work is included for, because I know you were asking that earlier, Jim, of what's in number 2 for the early works for the remaining project areas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As a contractor, they've just come on board. They know, they've got to prepare the yard for getting ready for the tunnel boring machine. So that's where they're focused first. And so that's where they're focusing their energy. And as they advance their schedule and the design of the others, then we'll be able to provide more information, but we just don't have that detail today.
Thank you, Erica. Alan, I see you're on camera, and Alan, to you.
Just checking on the mid-tunnel facilities, are they still items, or I thought I remembered that they're either downgraded or removed from the new?
Yeah, so the mid-tunnel facilities, the change to there's proposed as part of the proposed innovation is the change to the ventilation facilities. So as that's still being reviewed and final approval has to happen by VTA and BART, then they are something that likely will be going away, but that official approval has not happened yet,
okay.
And then it will be a change in the project. So
okay,
yes,
so
that's why.
You're still keeping pins there. Okay, all right. Thank you. But if that was going to be done, that would be part of number 2, CMTP.
If there was early works happening, preparations needed at the mid-tunnel facility sites, then yes, it would be included as number 2.
Okay.
But definitely, for major construction. But as I think that's likely something that's going to be, the above ground portion of that potentially could be going away. But it's not officially adopted yet. We don't know.
Okay, thank you.
We'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Erica. Lots of good questions. CTMP clearly at the top of a lot of folks' minds, and to your point, we'll be reporting back on this as it advances, as more is known, and including during the CWGs next year. Let me see if there's any other questions for Erica before we pass over to Kristen. Questions or comments for Erica? Don't see anything in the chat. Don't see hands. Not hearing anyone. Kristen, over to you.
Yeah, so just wanted to share a 2022 engagement summary. So since June and up until October, we were able to engage around 1,400 people throughout our station areas and along the alignment at 14 different events, including our community social. And within the downtown Diridon area, we were able to attend 6 different events, ranging from farmers markets to local community events. And so it's great to get on the grounds and share information on the project and get feedback with regards to station priority as well, and integrate that into our work there. And just a snapshot specifically at the events that we attended in the downtown Diridon area. We went to the downtown San Jose Farmers Market both in July and October. Also went to the Rose Garden Farmers Market in August, the Diridon Caltrain Station in August, and we had our VTA's community social at the VTA block right next to the customer service center in August, which some of you attended, so it was nice seeing you there. And then also had Viva Calle in San Jose at the Parque de Pobladores in September. And then a few recent presentations that we participated in these past few months was the Arena Authority Board of Directors meeting in October, presented a few updates there, as well as the SVLG Transportation Policy Committee this past month. And just a reminder that if you have any specific project updates that you'd like us to present on, you can feel free to reach out to me or Erin or Adriano and let us know, and we can start to prepare a presentation for you to present at your communities. But with that being said, we did want to gather some of your feedback, given that we've been engaging on the grounds and we're looking to plan to engage further and want to see if there are other ways that we can expand our horizons. So we do have a poll on Mentimeter. So if you want to either scan this QR code on your phone or go to menti.com and use this code listed here on either your laptop or your phone, we'll transition over there and I will share my screen on Mentimeter and we can dive on in.
And I'll try to kind of drop it in the chat. Definitely encourage everyone to use Mentimeter. It's fun and engaging, but if there's any barriers to that, we can take your feedback via chat or verbally, but definitely encourage you to use that survey platform.
So if you, again, go to www.menti.com and I can copy this for the chat right now. And then feel free to answer this question specific to other public engagement events that we should be participating in. And it doesn't have to be limited to the downtown Diridon area. If there's ones that you know of, we're happy to hear and see if we can integrate that in the future. And I see that only one person's on right now. I'll give you some time to log in and enter some of your responses. And if you are having difficulty accessing Mentimeter, feel free to also drop your responses in the chat as well. Or raise your hand and share verbally. All right, I'm going to give it maybe 20 more seconds and then we can move along to our next question. And you can always think on it and email me too if there are certain events that come up that you think that we should be engaging with and participating in throughout the year as well, not limited to just this meeting. All right, so moving on to the next question. What are other community organizations and agencies, associations that we should also be engaging? So thinking of people for communities that are beyond maybe our CWG groups currently, and thinking more on a macro perspective of who we should be engaging at large. And just a reminder, you can enter your answers in the chat or verbally as well. All right, I'll give it 30 more seconds and then we can transition off. All right, seeing the feedback stabilizing, I will transition back to the slide deck. Thanks for all of you who participated and gave feedback just now. And feel free to email me again if there's any events or organizations that you think of in the meantime as well.
Cool. I think that's back over to me. Thank you, Kristen. This is the CWG member report back portion of the meeting that we have at every meeting, which is our time where we really want to hear from you. And just a reminder from our perspective, we really want to share hear what you've been sharing with the communities and organizations you represent about the BSV project and what you've been hearing back. But also this is your time to say anything else you would like to say. And I'm also, so I don't forget, Eric has some good news for the downtown transportation plan, which is a effort strongly related to ours. So I'm gonna give Eric some space to talk about, give a good update, a good news update on that one following the CWG member report back. And Adine, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Relating to having a successful BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 project is making sure that we continue to have good rail service and good transit service. And the MTC is putting together a picture. The transit agencies in the Bay Area are part of a nationwide trend where it's even worse here in terms of transit agencies facing a fiscal cliff, where the federal COVID relief funding is running out and the ridership on BART and Caltrain and the other regional services is coming back more slowly. And this could potentially result in a fiscal crisis and significantly worse service. BART did their report a couple of weeks ago, and they concluded that to stabilize their budget just by cutting service, they would save 20 to 40% of revenue by cutting 65 to 85% of service. So imagine having BART trains that come like once an hour or once every 2 hours. Caltrain's fiscal cliff data is going to be made public by tomorrow at their committee meeting. And MTC is working with BART and Caltrain and the other agencies on a strategy for gap funding to address the fiscal cliff, as well as a medium-term strategy for regional funding. So all of us who want to make sure that their trains are running by the time that BART gets here, there's opportunities to pay attention to that and support the need for continuous operations funding and continued service.
Thank you, Adina. I think that was a report out for the members, right? Not too much else to do with that. Unless anything else you want to add?
That's a report out, and just you know, keep an eye out for things that you can do to support addressing the fiscal cliff.
Okay, thank you. Chris.
As Kristen mentioned, a number of the VTA reps attended the Arena Authority board meeting in October. And just for everyone's background purposes, the Arena Authority has representation from 2 city council offices, the mayor's office, the city manager's office, and the Downtown Association, and then 13 members at large. And there's a lot of positive buzz after the presentation. And I know from that meeting and in relation to the request for the $750 million funding, one of our board members who represents one of the organizations is also sending in a letter to support the $750 million funding. So, so there seems to be enthusiasm building from the organization about what's going on with the project.
That's great news. Thank you for sharing. Are there any other CWG members have things they'd like to share with the group?
Pardon me, this is Rod.
Yep.
Diridon, and I joined you right after the beginning. I have been able to listen in, and it's been very informative, and I thank you very much for allowing me to be involved. We've been in a car, so the communication has been a little bit sporadic, but thanks very much for the good work you're doing.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you for listening in, and thank you for your ongoing participation, and so many other things. Are there other CWG members? Then, Rod, I saw you come off mute.
Yes, at some point in the future, I'd like maybe you did discuss this and I missed it, but I'd like a discussion of how the integration, the flow will work between the future high-speed intercity rails and all of the commuter rail programs and light rail with the BART station. How will that flow work? And that's significant. And secondly, what construction that would affect the old station is being considered?
And I think we do have on our radar the integration with the other services, and then we'll think about the right place and time to bring that back. And I can say definitively that the Diridon BART project will not impact the current Diridon Caltrain station. And so any other CWG members? Okay, Eric, over to you. I hear you still have some good news about the San Jose's downtown transportation plan.
I sure do. Thanks, Doug. Yeah, this is Eric Eidlin, station planning manager for the city DOT, also co-project manager for the downtown transportation plan. And yeah, the plan went to council today and passed unanimously. Thank many of those here for your support and engagement over the almost 3 years we were working on it. And so the plan calls for a lot of future projects and you know, a lot you know, a lot of them relate to, or are, you know, there are some interrelationships with the BART project too. So in particular, there's an idea for a Grand Boulevard project effort for Santa Clara Street. So that's something that we got the thumbs up to move forward with. And then of course the downtown light rail realignment study that VTA is leading, but that, you know, in large part we got feedback through the downtown plan process to look into. And then a bunch of smaller things, you know, rethinking individual streets, one-way to two-way street conversions, those kinds of things. So the plan is available on our website, and I will share it with you. And yeah, so it's good news.
Cool. Congrats, Eric. And
Thank
thanks
you
for the update.
And Doug, also thanks to you, Doug, Doug kicked off that plan effort before he left the city. So thank you for that too.
And still working in the area, still very interested in good transportation outcomes for downtown. So what else? So that we've asked CWG members, we've got the update from Eric. We have a little bit of time. We're doing good on time today. So if there's anything else anyone else would like to say to the group, we have a little bit of time for that. And if there's nothing, I can just move on to next steps and we can end a little bit early and get some people time back in their day. So if anyone wants to say anything, please raise your hand or drop something in the chat or just chime in. Okay, seeing or hearing nothing, next steps. So thank you very much for participating in this November Downtown Diridon CWG meeting. We will see you back in February. You know, some of the draft things we have down are here, the regular phase 2 update, the review for the 2023 CWG work plan, which I'm sure will have some information in there following the conversation today on the CTMP. And then we do want to keep hearing from you, right? We're moving into construction. So we want to hear what you're sharing with your communities and what you're hearing from them. So we know the conversations that's out there and we can appropriately inform, address it, deliver this transformational project in partnership with everyone. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a great evening. We will see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Wow.